Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host. I am the host of YouTube and Chill, and tonight it's Friday night, and it is our time to do a little YouTube and Chill. I'm Ted Santos. And on Fridays, we come together to do YouTube and Chill, and we get to chill and discuss the intimacy of relationships. I love to talk about sex. Well, we get to kind of chill. It's Friday night. We chill out. We talk about intimacy. We talk about the most intimate aspects of relationships. And some of these things are really good and empowering, and other things are not the best news, but we really get to drill down and deal with the source of problems and rethink some of the problems that are happening in our intimate lives and look at them from other perspectives. Sometimes it's politically correct and sometimes it's not. So it's Friday night and it is time to YouTube and chill. As you come in, smash that like button. What's going on, PJ? Good to see you in the house. What's going on across the pond? Smash the like. If you have not subscribed to my channel, this is a good time to do that. Smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you will receive notifications. Some of you may have YouTube. I'm not sure how they do it, but sometimes they cancel the channels you have subscribed to, so you may not be receiving notifications from me. So subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and hit that bell so that you can receive them. What's going on, West Coast? Good to see you in the house. Yeah, man, we're going to take on this topic today. Share this video because we are going to address something that is kind of ugly. And it surely gets into the intimacy of relationships. It gets into a very ugly side. Doesn't make sense. We're going to pull it apart, strip it down, and look at it and ask some questions. And we have all these educated women out here making some very interesting decisions. And yet they want to be seen as intelligent and want the right to be able to lead a man and be chosen by the cream of the crop of men. And yet we see actions that don't deserve the cream of the crop. In many cases, don't deserve any kind of man, perhaps except for the ones they keep fighting for. And you know where they'll find them. And we're going to talk about that. If you guys haven't supported me in the past, this is a good time to do that. I've dropped my PayPal and Cash App links in there. Your support is always appreciated. Guys like me who provide content, it's always great to receive support from people who listen. My commitment is that I give you guys new perspectives on how to deal with some of the oldest problems and sometimes some new problems we have. And some of these things are just absolutely ridiculous, and it's good to be able to think them through and get clear perspective so that we are not joining the ladies in emotional bouts about things we like and don't like, that we can logically think things through and look at them from different perspectives. So as always, I welcome you guys to jump in the chat with me if you'd like to jump in here. And I also invite you to pick my brain, man. Let's, ask me some tough questions. Sometimes you guys do ask me really good questions. Sometimes you do it near the end. I'll do some screen shares so that we can look at what the media is saying about the topic today and look at some of the facts surrounding these social events. So your support and interaction is always needed and appreciated, and always Look forward to any support that you guys do from a financial perspective with Cash App and PayPal. So so women should be loved and not understood. And that is the first understanding. Interesting. Uh, Perhaps the problem is they don't understand the decisions they make. And maybe that's why so many are so defensive. They're doing things that they know just doesn't make sense. And when you ask them, really ask them about it, they're not so happy about too many questions. I've heard women say, hey, just be happy you have a woman in your life. Don't ask so many questions. Yeah, you should be asking questions. So you guys see, do women give criminal privileges to certain men? That's what we're going to talk about. This week, who wrote that? Who wrote what, Reg? What shit? So Bill Cosby recently released from prison, convicted and tried with no real evidence to show. I mean, women can come from 20, 30 years ago, even a year ago, and make accusations. I guess when you're a celebrity, you have dollar signs on your forehead, and many women believe there's a payday. And this happens often. You know, it's unfortunate. You know, I've heard, I know, I have a very close family member who works in Hollywood. They raise money for films. PJ wrote that, West Coast, right above you. Look right above you. So I know someone who works in Hollywood, and he said that it is. He said this is what you see: women who win Miss Wisconsin and Miss Kansas and Miss Mississippi, these beauty pageants. These are very attractive women. They have nice bodies, and they win their contests. They go on these road trips, and what do? They want to run off to Hollywood, and they're going to be a star. They want to leverage their looks, and they believe that going off to Hollywood, they're going to become a star, and they'll make it on the big screen or TV. My brother said, yes, this is my brother telling me this. He said that here's the way it goes. Some director or producer is going to say, hey, I want to see what your skills are like. Let's go to Cabo, California. And the reason that guy is going out there is he wants to have sex with this woman. And she doesn't know that. She's lived in the Midwest, and people don't do that in the Midwest. I mean, not to the extent they do it in Hollywood. So these women go on these trips, and the guy is like, hey, you know the deal. And she's like, well, no, I'm a virgin or whatever it is. She won't have sex. So, hell, what does that producer do? He pushes her to the side and says, who's next in line? And he takes the next woman. And so what do these beauty pageants do? A lot of them go back home because they keep getting invited to these trips. And they think because they're so beautiful, men are just going to give them the world. And they don't realize these men want something. You want to make it in Hollywood? You have to pay the piper, the pipe. And so a lot of these women just go back home disenchanted because they can't make it in Hollywood because they refuse to have sex with these strangers. So they go home. Another group of women find out that they're having sex with these guys and they're still not getting the role. So maybe they suck at acting. I don't know. But they don't get the role. So those women start to think, hey, if I'm going to have sex and I'm not getting paid, I might as well do porn. And that's how you see some of these gorgeous women in pornography. They went out, they were beauty pageant winners. They went to Hollywood looking to make movies. Guys are inviting them to different places and they want to have sex and they still don't get a Hollywood deal. So they figure, if I'm going to be having sex, I might as well do it for money, and they go into porn. And then there's the group of women who don't want to, they may have had sex, but they cut that short. And what they do is search for a wealthy husband in LA, and they find them, they get married and live happily ever after. So there are a lot of women who are having sex to find their opportunities in their careers. Like, this is very common in the show business arena. It's well known. The women who first go out there at 18 or 17 as naive, thinking that their beauty is going to open all the doors and they don't have to open their legs, they get a rude awakening and many go home. So when women are looking to engage many of these stars like Bill Cosby, they often know exactly what the rules of engagement are. And they will knowingly have sex. But I guess Me Too has given incentive to women to say, well, there's a payday you can get. You had sex for free and you got nothing. What's going on, Scobay? Good to see you in the house. And you know what? Unfortunately, and we're going to talk about that, how a lot of women have actually set themselves up to be for recreational purposes only. I once hung out with a dude who drank alcohol. He said it was for recreational and medicinal purposes only. And a lot of women have set themselves up for that. So a lot of women in Hollywood understand the rules of engagement. So to say these men are raping them, and someone was just telling me that one of the recent women for Bill Cosby was still texting him afterwards, after she claims to have been raped, and saying she still wanted to hang out with him. So what's happening with these women? Did they not get the break they expected? So they actually believe that they should be paid for having sex? Is that what Me Too has done for a lot of women? Told them that sex can give you a payday. Just have sex with the right guy. You know, we had Harvey Weinstein. You have sex with the right guy and you can extort him. You can get money out of him. That you can do. And so I want to talk about partly how outraged so many women are that Bill Cosby is being released. He should stay in prison. He's a horrible person. He's a rapist. He's a criminal, and he should stay in jail. I got it. If that's what women think, how do men take them seriously? If what we're seeing, let's see if I can share this with you guys. And I want to give out a shout out to Red Pillrican on Instagram, man. He shared this post, and I think I saw this yesterday. It was mind-boggling for me to see this. Maybe it was this morning. And here we have another criminal. And how much, maybe someone knows the amount. I think his criminal mother, both parents were criminals and heroin addicts, born in the state of Washington. And when his picture hit a police station's Facebook page, women ran to this guy. And here we have a woman saying, and this is something on social media. She says, he can rape me. I don't mind. He could have raped someone, but y'all would bail him out. It's impossible for him to rape because anyone would love it. I would pay him to rape me, is what women are saying. So, how do we as men take women seriously? If, on one hand, Bill Cosby is a criminal who should remain in prison, and he's this ugly monster who works in showbiz where women willingly open their legs for an opportunity to get their break in show business or some other career, because they're looking for these guys who are well networked. And here's a guy who has his network is, he was a Crip, he was in a gang. I talk about no network. His parents were heroin addicts. His father stabbed a woman 36 times and strangled her. He comes from a home of criminals. And he was a gang member. And he was convicted. He spent years in and out of juvenile detention centers. He was convicted and he's been in jail as an adult. And yet, for some reason, this guy, a woman says, I would pay him to rape me. Someone help me understand, because I won't hesitate to say I'm a little naive sometimes. And I saw the comment, women shouldn't be understood, they should be loved. How do you love a woman who says, like, we have three different women here. The first one says, he can rape me, I don't mind. He could rape someone, but y'all would bail him out. Next woman, it's impossible for him to rape because anyone would love it. And number three woman, I would pay him to rape me. You know how they say you can't make this up. This is out of control. So one man is accused of rape, no evidence, and he's a monster, should stay in prison. Another man is accused of almost killing a person, and for all we know, he may have murdered someone. He would never admit it because the statutes of limitations are never up for that. But this is a man who had guns. And if you're in a gang with guns, normally you're using them at some point. He's never, to my knowledge, I don't think he's been tried for murder. So I can't accuse him. I don't want to make up stories, but I want to also say, just like you had no evidence Bill Cosby raped, you have no evidence this guy has not killed people, but he has put himself in an environment where murdering people is part of the environment, protocol, etiquette. So how do ladies get to, I would pay this guy to rape me? Are they really low class? I mean, then hey, Iggy Alexander, then that means most women are low class. I mean, think about the amount of, does anyone know how much money was raised for this guy to bail him out? Wasn't it more than $1 million? His mother did a GoFundMe and he was bailed out. There was that much money. And this woman even says, hell, he could rape someone, but y'all would bail him out. Yeah, I saw that. He was in a relationship and he did get modeling contracts. And if you guys haven't seen, he's done at least 2 movies so far. Hey, and Iggy, right. So this is an heiress of a billionaire. So I guess you can be low class and still come from money, but she's definitely from a higher socioeconomic class. So this guy was born in 1984. And the women call him the hot felon. He was in a gang, the Crips in California, convicted of felons, and he's a convicted felon, born to a family with criminal history. This is not my attitude, my opinion of this guy, including, they said, a heinous acts such as murder and rape by his father and petty crimes by his mother, sister, and brother. So an entire ecosystem of criminals in his family. Like, why would anyone get involved with that? They say he plunged into a world of crime, and in his teenage years, gang violence, theft, possession of firearms. He spent 10 and a half years of his early life going in and out of prison. It's 2014, his mugshot clicked. And he got all kinds of deals. So how are women justifying this mindset? And I get it. You know, you can say he's some people would say he's a good-looking guy, but there are good-looking guys who have master's degrees in business and engineering. They're not criminals. Hey, myth twist, right? So, right, he's a great example of literally being rewarded for being a criminal. So, when I was thinking about this is what I was thinking. This after serving nearly 3 years, Bill Cosby was just released from prison. Several women alleged he drugged and raped them. Without any evidence, Cosby was convicted and sent to prison. Now, many women are outraged over his release and believe he should serve more time. On the other hand, Jeremy Meeks, and apparently there's nothing meek about Jeremy Meeks, he was raised by criminal heroin addict parents. That family life pushed him into a life of crime and gang violence. And from a youth, he spent years in juvenile detention centers. As an adult, his life of crime did not slow down. Yet many women donated money to bail him out. What's most interesting is the online conversations where women wish they could have been raped by him. So the very thing Cosby is convicted of is the very thing women desire from Meeks. How is this kind of logic healthy to society? See, and this is what someone's saying. So are women actually enabling crime from men? So like what do some of the young guys start to think when they see, well, you can be rewarded for being a criminal? And many of these women are rewarding this guy. These are well-educated women with great paying jobs. So is this the female behavior that is most responsible for the drop in marriage rates? See, women keep saying men are dogs, and yet when they get the opportunity, you just saw me put up there, women said I would pay him to rape me. You get the opportunity, ladies, to show that you're women, more women go to college. That means they say more women are educated than men. And we've been told women are more intelligent than men and boys. We've been told that women are more mature. But is this really a mature decision to make as an adult female? Is this really the kind of example we want for the young girls coming up? And what are the young boys going to think? The deal is, I'm going to get lots of ass if I'm a criminal. So how do we tell boys don't lead a life of crime and don't be a gangbanger when the women are saying, oh yeah, be a gangbanger, and she opens her legs for you, even opens her wallet. And as one woman said, I'd even pay you to rape me. So how are women living up to this belief that they're more intelligent, more mature than men? And this seems to be going across racial, this transcends racial boundaries. There doesn't seem to be a cap on the race doesn't seem to put a cap on this. Hey, West Coast, I didn't want to say that because I didn't have the facts, right? So the tear means he did murder someone. I hear conflicting stories about that also, about the tear, but I've heard that one, the tear means he did murder. Right. So now women want us to take them seriously as being intelligent, as being mature, as being responsible. I mean, is this really the responsible way to set examples for the next generation? Are we really looking at the impact of this kind of behavior and mindset on the entire community, on the country? Okay, Rich, thanks. Yeah, I heard that, but I heard some other things too, having to do with prison. But yeah, I heard each tier is you get a tier for each murder. And it's look, I'm extrapolating. I can't prove, right? Except the tier. But if a guy is a crip and is got guns, most likely he's going to use it. I mean, that's what his training is in gang violence. To be a gangbanger, you're going to use that gun. So how is it women want to be seen? So that we talk about all these privileges, male privilege, white privilege, patriarchy privilege. Well, you never hear women talk about criminal privilege that they actually extend to certain guys. So I guess Bill Cosby couldn't, he he didn't get the privilege card. Is it because he's not attractive? Clearly he has money. He would have way more money than this Jeremy Meeks guy. And he'd have, hell, Bill Cosby has opened doors for careers for lots of people. So what are the determining factors? Is pretty privileges. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've heard about these pretty privileges. I'm going to comment on that. So, I mean, is this privilege, or are these women suffering from hybristophilia, which is a real mental disorder? And hybristophilia is it's a mental condition where the person is sexually aroused and can more easily reach a climax if they are having sex with someone who is a criminal, a rapist, a murderer, a gangbanger, a drug dealer, even if it's with a person who cheats on their spouse. So there are guys who are hybristophiliacs, but mostly women suffer from this. So do we live in a society that has way more women suffering from a real mental disorder, except they've been undiagnosed and they suffer from hybristophilia? And the reason they won't date and marry the guy who does what you say makes an honest living, right? He could be a carpenter, he can be a plumber, he can be a crane operator. Hell, in New York, some of these crane operators make $400,000 a year. They're making an honest living. I guess if you're in a mafia, here in New York, we have them. And then you have the guys who are engineers, they're business degrees. There are all kinds of men who have earned their way. They work their way. They develop. They train themselves, and they're not engaged in a life of crime. And women will say, "Well, I'm not feeling him. There's no chemistry." But yet somehow they've got chemistry with a guy who's a known criminal. And hybristophilia says if the woman knows he's a criminal, a liar, a cheater, she just it's like her brain goes into automatic arousal, and she will come so much faster with that guy, even if he's doing and saying the same thing as the guy who's more clean cut. And they're getting pregnant by these guys and raising them as single mothers. So that means we have single mothers suffering, who are undiagnosed, suffering from mental disorders, raising children. Hey, Myth Twist. Yeah, I get that. But you know what? And I lost the link. My computer crashed. But I found something on Instagram once. Very attractive British woman. Very attractive. Black British woman. From her accent and from her appearance, and you would think that she was well educated. And she was having a live chat with some video chat with a guy who was unattractive. I don't know if they met on a dating site. I don't know if they were on Instagram video chatting. I don't know what it was. And this the ugly dude was saying, "Look, I don't have a lot of time, so we kind of got to get to it." And the woman was you could see she was getting turned off. Like, "Why are you talking to me? Why are you brushing me? Why are you pushing it like this?" Why? She was getting turned off. And then the guy showed he was on a phone where he was. And she asked, "Where are you? In a prison cell?" And he was like, "Yes." And as soon as she knew he was in a prison cell, all of a sudden her demeanor changed. She became patient. She was flirty. And she continued talking. You would think that this woman would have just disconnected. She was actually a very attractive woman. And she continued talking. And then the guy showed his cellmate, who was, this dude was ripped. He was tall, he was ripped, and he was much more handsome. He was much more handsome than the ugly dude who started the conversation. And then you saw her flirting, like you could see her melting. So even the ugly dude was getting play once she knew that he was in prison. Even the ugly dude. So this is maybe what the signs of, I'm no professional. I've done no diagnosis of any women. Look, maybe this is what it starts to look like when a woman is suffering from hybristophilia. She doesn't care what the guy looks like. She's just turned on by the fact he's a criminal. I mean, that's what I saw in that video. So I guess Bill Cosby didn't commit the right kind of crime. Or maybe it was just the way it was marketed and publicized. And I get the whole Jeremy Meeks, he's got the cheekbones, and I understand that. But are these really sound decisions? So for the men who have tried to get together with some of these women who, sidestepped you and then went on later to give money for Jeremy Meeks and proudly boast of their interest in criminals, you dodged you dodged a cannon, not a bullet. The last thing you want to do is be with someone who has a mental disorder, and her satisfaction is being with a criminal. So a lot of guys may be upset that women are curving you, they're ignoring you, but yet they're going to the criminals. I mean, can you imagine what your life would be like? I mean, it's a mental disorder, and I just wonder, mental disorders. I just wonder, is I can't prove it, but I wonder if some mental disorders, is it the result of trauma, and is that mental disorder and trauma, is it causing a lower intelligence that no matter what you do, because you don't have the expertise to get the woman out of that mental disorder, that woman is going to cause devastation in your life. And you are much better off without her, no matter how good she looks and no matter how good you think the sex will be. And I hear guys saying the crazy woman give the best sex. Maybe. Love to hear your theory, Myth Twist. So the reason why I'm going down the avenue of intelligence is because one thing I do know is that one of the things that trauma does to the brain is it creates like mental barriers, almost like traffic jams. So you get too much trauma, physical or mental trauma in your life, it starts impeding your brain's capacity because you have all this traffic of trauma in your brain, and your natural intelligence is being barricaded, it's being blocked. And so one of the things that I know, and there have been studies for this, that when you want to increase a person's intelligence, one of the first things you do is help them undo the trauma, unlearn the trauma that they've experienced, and you free up bandwidth in the brain, and you watch that intelligence just expand exponentially. So are these women traumatized, and this is just one of their coping mechanisms from that trauma, is to deal with criminals and to be turned on by it. But in the meantime, their intelligence is dropping because it is a poor decision. I mean, just think about this guy. He comes from a family of criminals. So why would you support that? I mean, why? What's the future in that? And if women are out here saying, I want a man who has got a future, why would you support a man who's a criminal? What do you mean if it's trauma? Well, the trauma, I'm saying that, so a woman could have been raped or molested. That's trauma, right? She could have been beaten by her parents, or if it's a single mother and the single mother is not coping with the poverty lifestyle that she's put her family in, and she becomes verbally and physically abusive to the children, and those children are receiving trauma over and over again. So let me give you a factual statistic. Is, at least in the Black community, suicide rates are up for children between 11 and 17. And for boys, it's up 60%. And girls, it's up 132 or 131%. And these are children being raised in a single mother household. So I did a show and looking at what's the impact of the father being removed from the home. And the studies show that little girls are more negatively impacted by removing the father from the home than the boy is. And so you see more than twice the suicide rates of girls between 11 and 16 than boys. Boys up 60%, girls up 132%, 131%. You cannot and when you take one parent out of the home, that causes emotional trauma by itself. The child is abandoned. That is trauma. So any woman who's like, oh, I can raise my children alone, I don't need a man, you just out the gate before the child is born, you just created an environment that's automatically going to traumatize the child. And here's, not to get, don't mean to get so technical, but here's the interesting thing is the brain only registers trauma. It doesn't mean if it's physical trauma or mental trauma or, you know, abandonment, verbal. The brain is only one section of the brain that registers trauma. The brain only knows trauma is trauma is trauma. Physical, mental, emotional, it's all trauma. So you keep giving a child trauma, one parent in the house, telling, you know, the parent, the kids are being raised in poverty, more trauma. You're constantly yelling at the kids because you're upset. The kid gets sexually molested. A woman is dating a guy who pays the bills and he also molests and rapes the daughters or the sons. So, you know, just trauma after trauma after trauma. Now in um, your brain is being clogged up with so much trauma that your intelligence is dropping. So there have been studies where they looked at IQ tests before helping the person undo the trauma and after, and you can have real leaps in the person's intelligence and their competence and their ability to function in the world. Yet trauma can be passed down. That's another thing, right? So yes, trauma can be passed down. What you have to understand, when you take one parent out of the home, that is trauma. That person's been abandoned. That is, and like I said, only one part of the brain registers that. And most mothers are not equipped to deal with the trauma that a single parent household causes. And then all the other things, you know, just having a father in a home is a protective covering for a lot of children to avoid being raped or molested. And I understand a lot of times it's other family members, uh, can even be the father. And hell, it can even be the mother. We don't talk about that much. We don't want to, that's the sacred cow. We don't want to talk about the amount of mothers who molest their boys. Or hell, there are even women being arrested because they're having their small girl, teenage girl, preteen, having sex with her boyfriend or prostituting her. I mean, these more women do these kinds of things, and our society doesn't want to discuss those things. These little girls are being traumatized severely because of this. So constant, and when you combine that with myth twist, yes, there is the inherited trauma, right? So it can be passed down through your cells, like they carry the uh, almost like a sequence of trauma in them, and it gets passed down. So you imagine what happens if the only trauma is a single parent household, that emotional trauma, and now you have generations of that. At some point, that kind of trauma is going to affect the child's ability to make sound decisions. You're going to have intelligence drop lower and lower. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. And you start to have these mental disorders like hybristophilia. And so is it a wonder that you're going to get an increase of mental disorders and women making such poor decisions? They want to be raped by a guy, by a criminal. Will even say publicly they would pay him. So how do we as a society even correct this if criminals are being rewarded and women are high-fiving one another and condoning this behavior? I mean, there was a time when the older women had a lot more say, but that was coming out of two-parent households and multi-generational homes. You may have had the grandparents living there. And there were certain boundaries that grandma just didn't tolerate. Hey, you don't do that. You don't go out there running the streets, sleeping with a bunch of men. It's going to cost you. Now mama and daughter are competing for the same men. So we've got a long list of women who have squandered their youth, and they think that, now that they're 45, 50, that they're going to compete with their 22-year-old daughter for the same 25-year-old guy. You guys have heard me say it before. Only men are going to be able to correct this. And yes, we could say, I heard all the case beliefs that you let it crash and burn, but why would you let a child burn your house down just so you can prove to the child they're making poor decisions? Look, you tell your 5-year-old, look, we're homeless because you burned down the house. It's all your fault. How intelligent is that? You correct, discipline, and provide guidance for that 5-year-old. So if women are making decisions that appear to be no more intelligent than a 5-year-old lighting matches because they're fascinated with fire and they burn the house down, if we have adult females functioning at the same intellectual capacity and the same logic, crudely put, how the fuck are they going to be leading any man in a relationship? Like, someone explain, how the fuck does that work? If you're a beautiful 25-year-old woman who squandered your youth playing with inmates and maybe even have one child by one, and now you want to come into this guy's life that you're 30 and you want to lead him because you believe you have a degree and you've made these fucking childish decisions like a 5-year-old, and a man is supposed to take you seriously. Like you found Jesus and all of a sudden you're intelligent and you can make these decisions. The Bible saved you. Well, if we look at these two, Bill Cosby, many of you college-educated women are angry with him, and there's no proof that he did anything wrong. And in fact, this woman who he settled, I hear that she was still texting him after the fact that she wanted to hang out with him. And then you've got a guy who's clearly convicted. He's got the tier saying that he's a murderer, and you want to pay him to rape you. Hey, West Coast, that's exactly what I'm saying. You guys think that, oh, you missed out on this opportunity to have sex or date this woman. Man, she did you such a favor. She was about to drop an atomic bomb in your life. And when she drops the atomic bomb in the criminal's life, hell, he doesn't care. He's already dropped his own bombs. And aside from that, she's so sexually aroused because she suffers from a mental disorder, hybristophilia. She's so aroused by this guy that she's willing to jump through hoops. Look at this thing I just shared. A woman says she would pay that man to rape her. So instead of her bringing chaos into his life, she's going to pay him and say, rape me. Now, you can say, oh, she didn't mean that. Hey, look, that's what the woman wrote. These are not my words. I think I heard some woman say she could, if she abstained from sex for enough years, she would be a virgin again. Well, see, I mean, if she were 5 years old and she was using that kind of logic, I would understand that because she would have a limited capacity for understanding sex and virginity. But when you've got an adult woman over 15, it's difficult to buy that. And now the new excuse women are using is, oh, your frontal lobe is not even fully developed until you're 25, so these women don't know what they're doing. So look, I've never given a woman a drug that makes them want to have sex, but I actually have a concern. I have a concern about how that drug can actually force a woman to have sex. So you hear lots of women talk about when they ovulate, they are horny beyond belief. They want to have sex. Except for some reason, when a woman is ovulating, how many women are ovulating and they just go out there? Now, some of them are going out and having one night stands. They feel like they're out of control and they're choosing. There's a guy they're choosing. So when a woman is ovulating, even if she likes you, and it's let's say a first or second date, and she's determined that she needs to, even though she wants to have sex with you, she thinks you're attractive, sexually attractive. She, even though she's ovulating, she still won't have sex with you. She might go home and call some bad boy, or she'll just go home and play with her toys. But when a woman is ovulating and horny, she can make a decision to have sex or not have sex. So I'd have to understand how much hornier these drugs, Spanish fly, whatever the date rape drug, Quaaludes, whatever they are, I'd want to understand how much hornier do they make a woman than when she's ovulating? Because when a woman's ovulating, if you ever heard a female cat in heat and they're they're screaming for sex. If a woman can determine, I'm ovulating, I know I'm ovulating, I know I need to have sex badly, and I won't do it, then how does a drug push her to have sex? I mean, there are women who are ovulating, they go drink alcohol and they're drunk and they still won't have sex, even though their body's screaming for it. So is it that women just look for a victim? So with Bill Cosby, there's a payday attached to it. Jeremy Meeks, there's no payday attached to that. In fact, I'm saying this too much. In fact, there's no payday attached to Jeremy Meeks. At least it wasn't back then. I mean, he's making money now. But not only was there no payday, women were saying they would actually pay him to rape her. Is there a woman in the house who's willing to explain the logic? and then help the men understand why any man would want to respect the amount of women who, not only amount of women who have that mindset, they hang together. The amount of women who endorse that mindset. I mean, if we could go back and look at all the women who contributed to Jeremy Meeks for his GoFundMe campaign, those women should be avoided. I mean, these women are dirty, not just physically, mentally. I mean, you're wanting to have sex with guys in prisons. It's a known fact that dudes in prison carry all kinds of STDs. And yet women still want that. That's, mental disorders affect your decision making. Well, I wonder about that, right? Is this right? So they won't want to pay the average criminal, right? So if that's what you're saying, I get that, right? So there has to be this sexual attraction. What I mean, Myth Twist, you're in England, and I'm telling you, when I saw this gorgeous and I couldn't see all of her body, but from what I could see, she was well maintained. She had a nice body. She had a nice rack. She was not fat. You could see her face was lean. She was well taken care of, skin clean, real hair, well groomed woman, uh, well spoken, educated. You could hear that this woman appeared to have standards, and yet that guy was, man. He looked like I'm telling you, he looked like he could be related to Flavor Flav. He looked. That's how he looked. And this woman was very attractive. And if there's such a thing as pretty privilege, this woman would have gotten pretty girl privilege for sure. And for the record, there's so many women out there who are claiming pretty privilege and they never even came close. Um, most women are mediocre, intellectually and physically. And how do you hide your mediocrity? Well, you put on fake hair, wigs, weaves, fake nails, eye contacts, eyelashes. You get injections. You get these tits that are, you're not. They're not natural. Your ass. You get your waist sucked in. I mean, if you are good looking, you don't have to go through all that. But maybe those are the women who are really attempting to attract the Jeremy Meeks of the world. So guys like me don't count. The fact that I find those fake things unattractive, I guess it's irrelevant. Except those women don't get pretty girl privileges. You get pretty girl privileges when you're naturally beautiful. But then I just can't understand the natural beautiful girls still going for this stuff. No daddy in the household. I'm not advocating what Middle Eastern men do, but if in the Middle East you shame and disgrace your family, your father will take you off the planet. There are consequences. And myth twist, there are plenty of women who engage the average criminal. Plenty of them. All right. If women just immediately like went cold turkey and stopped engaging criminals, those guys would have no incentive or motivation to be a so-called bad boy or thug. It would dry up overnight. As long as someone said, as long as there's a reward for it, how do you convince a guy to not do it? And look, I understand these are guys who have a very low bar, right? So they're counting how many pieces of ass they can get in the course of a year or a lifetime. And talking about economic power is a whole nother wasted conversation, because they're talking about pussy and they've bought into the fact that that's all they want. So I guess women are exploiting. I guess for a woman, you could feel powerful if you do that. I mean, I have seen some average criminals. I've seen, and man, this is exploitative. So this might be another aspect of it, right? I've seen some what appear to be average criminals, average thugs, bad boys, wannabe bad boys, living with a woman, and she came down on him like the Hulk and telling him, "You ain't shit. You don't have money. You don't work. I take care of everything. I pay the bills. Um, your rapping career is never going anywhere. I want you out." Like, I mean, completely devastating and demeaning the guy. So myth twist. I just wonder how much does that play a role, right? So women have been taught that men are going to control your life. They're going to force you to change your last name. They're going to influence the way you think. They're going to dominate you and keep you in a bedroom, in the kitchen. And so the antidote for women for that being dominated by men was to get an education and find a job. And so women have flipped. They flipped, even though those are lies, they're propaganda. Women have actually flipped that, and they have been able to find men who don't have a job or a great job, and she gets to completely dominate, demean, devastate this man. And then it makes these videos of her demeaning him, makes it to social media, and you can see the guy, for lack of better ways to express it, you can see the guy's like got a crushed spirit. So is there a percentage of women who are just completely turned on and aroused by bad boys? I would say, according to hybristophilia, yes. But there may be just this group of women who are looking for a man that they can completely dominate and be in control. Um, and the belief is he should love me more than I love him, which biochemically isn't even logical, because women have much more oxytocin. So a woman is generally supposed to have more feelings for a man than a man does. So are women going that route and taking these low-level criminals just to have a man? She's not alone. And she gets to completely dictate, dominate, and control this guy's life. And if he gets out of line, she demeans him. And if necessary, she physically abuses him. I wonder how many men are in that situation. We just don't hear about it. So this could be a whole nother perspective and an avenue that's happening out there in much larger numbers than a lot of people realize. I mean, you hear about these guys who sometimes the woman is fat, she's overweight, and he, under normal conditions, he wouldn't be with her, but he is having a difficult time finding a job. Economics, he can't bring his economics together, and this woman will take care of him, provided she makes the laws and he follows them to the T. And if he steps out of line, she corrects his ass like he's a child. Hey guys, If you haven't smashed the like, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. So, we're looking at, do women give criminal privileges to certain men? So one is, we can all say this Jeremy Meeks guy he's women found him handsome. They found him uh, dangerous enough to protect them, to feel physically safe, and they would want him, at least having a shot at him. So lots of women contributed money to bail him out. But then there are these women who maybe they've been in a relationship with a bad boy and they feel like they got played. So they found a weaker version of a bad boy and said, sure, come live with me. But it's by my rules. I run things around here. And as more men get displaced from the workforce, there are more and more guys who qualify, who will end up qualifying to be in that kind of situation. Yeah, I can see that. Women want a guy with an edge. Right. He's got a killer. I made perhaps the assumption is if he's got this killer instinct, he's going to be a better provider. He'll be more aggressive. Right. Right. Well, so there's another aspect, and I don't know if men address this enough. There's another aspect to a man having a killer edge, killer instinct, criminal mind, and it goes down one road, and that road is filled with sex. Women are looking for good sex. Uh, we can go with the traditional belief that men need sex more than women, um, but women need sex much more than what our society allows. This is the foundation of the U.S. culture is the Puritans and very prudish. So women think the guy who's got an edge is going to have a sexual edge too. He's going to not only have a sexual edge, he's going to push her to an edge. He's going to push her beyond her normal boundaries. And she has a higher chance of experiencing pleasure she's never experienced before. Women are looking for that. See, as much as they can say, I've got a degree and I have a great job, um, I have a home, I have my own car, I'm an entrepreneur. But what we cannot take away from a human being is sexuality. And that its sexuality has such a huge impact on our culture. Just looking at Hollywood, if you listen to what I was saying in the beginning, like how many of these directors and producers exploit women, hell, even men, but they exploit women with sex. If you want to get into Hollywood, yeah, lady, this is a couch call. Go lay on that couch and open your legs or drop to your knees. So sex has such a huge impact. And women are so often on the end of feeling like they're being exploited. Men are just using them for sex. But when you really get underneath it and find out how much women desire sex, like if you could release that, like on a card, they put a governor, and the governor regulates how fast or how powerful a car engine can go. Women have a governor, a social governor on their sexuality in the US. And if you release that, you'll find that women have so many desires, sexual desires. I mean, you can push a woman to have sex 10 times in a day. You can do that on Saturday, Sunday, and she'll call in sick on Monday, and still you can step in that 10 times. And she could be sore and tired. And you know what she's going to do? She's still going to get aroused because she wants that. Well, that's provided you're delivering uh, what she deems as good sex. What's going on, country boy? Good to see you in the house. Myth twist, the Holy Trinity. Right, that's beyond the jackpot, right? So exactly. And that is so often what a lot of women are looking for. If when you start peeling away all the layers, I mean, I was talking about other things, but if we start really getting down to the core humanistic, animalistic aspect of human beings, it's for women, it comes down to sex. Well, we've just asked them to suppress their sexuality and not want it as much as they do. So a guy who's a criminal is a guy who discards boundaries. And that's what a woman is looking for. A guy who will push beyond sexual boundaries and bring on pleasure that perhaps she has not experienced. He has no regard for the niceties, and he's going to treat her the way she wants to be treated sexually. Right. So we're looking at it logically, and she's. Well, see, we say so much about how men are thinking with their little head, but what if that's all that women are doing when they're choosing criminals, when they bail out a guy who they claim to be a good-looking criminal and they think has an edge? I mean, this Jeremy Meeks technically doesn't really have a nice body. He's a thin dude. He's not. I mean, he's got cut. I mean, he's not a fat dude, right? And he's not a twig. But I guess the criminal edge, a face they like, and the danger, right? So this guy can provide a level of protection, at least in the woman's mind, and a criminal who pushes beyond the edges. This is Women are looking to have their uh, edges crushed and destroyed and taken into, like Star Trek, taken into new frontiers. Lots of women are open. I don't care how educated. I don't know about the age limit on this. Maybe there's a topping out where women know that, hey, can't play that game anymore. Too old for it. But women really are looking to be dominated and shown sexual pleasure that they couldn't find on their own. See, but country boy, I wonder if they're just afraid to say what they want because society has said, well, you can't want that. Very interesting. Yeah, myth twist, the dark side of things, right? The occult. And a lot of times, a lot of those women can be exploited in that. And I guess perhaps there's a sense of power that they may look for in that also. Yeah, I once I knew this woman who told me her grandmother gave her this little black shoebox, and it was filled with things that if you use it, her grandmother said, if you use it, if a man hurts you, you can get back at him. And she said her grandmother taught her how to do all those things. She said her grandmother did not teach her mother. She skipped a generation and went straight to her. Well, see, country boy, that's actually what I'm saying, right? So look at the women who actually say I'm a savage, right? That's what I'm actually getting at. Perhaps this is what women are looking for more than men realize. That savage, uh, just handle me, dominate me, uh, pulverize me, fuck me to death, and I'll submit to you. Like this is what many women, educated or not, perhaps this is what they're really looking for in the bedroom. I mean, just like you said, how well did 50 Shades of Grey do? Mostly women bought the book, watched the movie. So what are women, what are they really telling us? So is this, so are these the lessons for men to have about women? And so I did a show, and I forget what it was about. Well, a woman typed in the chat, like, why can't a man be a nice guy and lay pipe well also? So perhaps, so it's, man, I don't want to say this is the silver lining, but another perspective, we're looking at various perspectives. Perhaps another perspective is that women are actually inviting men to be savages. Like for men to be much more fearless. So, you guys know me for saying, me man, you woman. There's the caveman that I have no fear to express that to a woman. You tell me I'm a sexist? Yes, I am. I'm a proud sexist. I see you as the weakest sex, and I would carry you over a puddle. If I pay for dates, that makes me a sexist because I didn't let you do it. If someone is in our house, a robber comes in a house, I'm a sexist. I'm not going to send the woman down. I'm going to go handle that. And if a woman says she wants to lead me, I'm going to tell her straight, I will not be led by a woman. You guys have already seen me lay out the articles that show that women's brains function differently. Women are mentally unstable compared to a man's brain. So maybe it's time for men to stand up. Maybe that's the other thing women are looking for criminals, that they are going to stand up, except for those women who just absolutely dominate and demean these guys. Maybe this is the thing that men are being invited to do. And women may be ashamed to say that that's what I want. I want to be dominated in and out of the bedroom. And so, yes, listen to me, hear what I have to say, but just don't ever let me dominate you. Hey, Sudata, good to see you in the house. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. See, maybe this is the, and like I said, I hate to say silver lining, but this maybe the lesson for men is women are begging for this. So maybe, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe 100 years ago, women didn't want this dark side stuff, but maybe they always have wanted that. Maybe they just and it's like, guys, it's like a guy being a container and a woman is water. There's some solidness to you that she's looking for that can contain. So contain her savagery, right? So give her an outlet to be able to express that, and you accept it and embrace it, but you fire back with the male or masculine version of savagery, and you be relentless about it. Hey, myth twist. So you understand exactly what I'm saying, right? Yeah, they've always wanted it, right? So I was trying to think, maybe there was a nah. They've always. This is just. I mean, when you really talk to a woman, they'll tell you that like they want the essence of a man, right? So when those women said that they would pay or want to be raped by that Jeremy Meeks, I've met women who said they wanted to be raped by a stranger, and these are educated women with great jobs, attractive. In one case, very attractive. She said she wanted to be raped by a man, a stranger. And I said, maybe that's not what you mean, because when you get raped, it's just, you're not going to want that. And what they were communicating to me was, I want the essence of that manhood, that man's power. I want to feel that dominate me. I want to feel it over. I want to feel the power of a man. And this is decades ago when I heard this. So perhaps women are begging us for it, and perhaps enough men are not responding to their invitation, to their begging. And so they're doing what children do when they don't get the candy they wanted or the gift. They're throwing temper tantrums, and they're going off and doing stuff that makes no logical sense to be with criminals, with the hope that they'll get the thing that they wanted from the right guy in the first place. So what I'm inviting you to consider is this whole thing of being gentle and kind. Hey, there are some women who don't want rough, but and sometimes you still have to push them to the edge. I've seen that. I've been with women who don't like rough sex, but I still pushed her to the edge. Her back was hurting, her stomach was hurting. I still pushed her to that edge, and it did not make her run. She came back for more, and she, wanted to see if she could handle things better next time. So women are inviting us to this. And as a man, we have way more savagery, where our neurobiology just allows us to be like, we have stuff, neurochemicals that's like putting nitrous in a car, man, that like makes us way more of a savage than a woman. And that's what she wants. She wants you to meet her savagery with masculine savagery. They just don't know how to get it out of the man they may really want, so they've just gotten out of control. A myth twist. The Greeks, back in the 80s, I said one day we're going to find out why the Greeks handled their women the way they did. Hey, yeah, but see, country boy, these women are growing up believing that they'll get satisfaction out of rape because of what I said. They want to feel the power of manhood, of the masculinity, the essence of a man, control and dominate. They want to feel that there is a, and it may not be a matter of hybristophilia. It's just what I don't know, the yin and the yang, right? So you take a plug and put it in a socket and you get electricity, you get power, right? So maybe that's just how it works. And if we deny them, then they become bad children. A Myth Twist, thanks for the super chat, man. Thank you from across the pond. Thank you for that. Yes, they are unstable, and that's why I keep saying, if you look at a woman as water and a man as a container, you need to be a solid container that she does not penetrate and break. I mean, I've said this way too many times. It's just, when they say toxic masculinity, it's this is more the women who are not going to be chosen, and the women who don't even like men are saying masculinity is toxic. So just ignore them. They have no say on what it means to be masculine. This is a man's lane to determine what masculinity is. Hey, but Myth Twist, but I remember saying to a woman, and she was married, I said, why don't you just ask your husband to rape you? And she said, no, I want it to be a stranger. I was like, you really don't understand what you're saying. This is not a good mindset. You may be attracting a rapist, and then you'll have a new perspective on rape. And she was like, no, it's the stranger. I want to know that he's forcing me, and I'm helpless and nothing I can do. There's this level of helplessness. And listen, man, there are a lot of women who have gone into the workforce, and they cannot find a man who wants to marry them. And these women are admitting in different circles, that they are exhausted from working. Women don't have the biochemistry to put in the hard work like men. You guys heard me talk in World War II. When men were fighting, most men, you had women in the factories manufacturing things. And when men needed more supplies, the women had to work significantly more hours. Well, when women worked more hours, injuries went up 150%, 150%. And the injuries for men in the same exact conditions were unchanged. Men were unaffected by longer hours. Women, as much as they believe they can meet us where we are and match us in equality, it's a lie. So women are starting to feel exhausted, and hell, the fastest growing segment of heroin users are women who earn high incomes. And a woman who earns a high income means that she has a high responsibility. She's well educated, and those women are doing heroin. So they are not handling typical male roles the way they think they can, because they don't have the biology for it. So let me tell you, man, I've met women who are older, 50s, 60s, professional women. They worked in different environments, well educated. They made good salaries. And I sat down and I listened to these women talk about, how they didn't let some guy catch them, and maybe they should have, and he's happily married now. And I just hear all these stories about, these women who had this mindset of, I won't be dominated by a man, and I'm in control. And the one thing I did consistently with all of these women is I said, those men that you liked didn't handle you properly. And the one thing that he should have made clear to you, and I said, I'm going to say this to you. This is from me to you. And I want to only have to say this once for you to understand it. And I said, here's what he needed to tell you to settle you down. He just needed to simply say, me man, you woman. He needed to say, me man, you woman. There's nothing you can do about that. I am a man, you're a woman, and there's nothing you can do. And me man, you woman, man speak, woman listen. They didn't like the man speak, woman listen, but they loved the aspect of me man, you woman. They all were comforted. I actually watched a woman cry and say, if that's what he would have said, then I think I would have gotten it. I'm telling you, every time, no woman said, kiss my ass. I would never tolerate that. Every single time. But they bought into feminism so much that they fought against guys like that. And maybe this is part of what I'm getting at is like, never let a woman dictate to you what masculinity is, what manhood is. Yeah, there's a bruteness that every man has. Every man is dangerous. We're doing women a favor by not expressing our dangerousness on a daily basis. But we all have it. And that was kind of a mindset men had. If you go back 60 years plus, there was this, hey, I'm a man, I'll take care of this. And women didn't work. So, you know, in one of my last shows, I said women didn't get jobs because they wanted education and jobs. They just wanted a backup plan. So when a man says, me man, you woman, I don't have to listen to you. I can do what I want. But there is a bruteness that when these women say they want to be raped by a stranger, there's that bruteness that they're looking for in a man. There's that savagery. There's that. Listen, I've literally told women, I will fuck you in your mouth. I will bang out the back of your throat. And not one woman ever said, don't do that to me. I don't want you to do that. Oh, that's horrible. They just giggle and say, okay, I'm saying a savage. I have no regard for you. I will fuck you on my terms. Yeah, man. I have had to talk to women in ways that seem ridiculous, and they'll like, oh, you can't talk to me like a child. And I say, well, if you stop acting like a child, I'll stop talking to you like one. And as long as you act like one, I will talk to you like one. No one runs out the door. Hey, country boy, that's a good one, right? So boys in church, you're taught to be, you know, you're almost taught to be submissive to a woman, to be the nice church going guy, and she's made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and you want to be a nice guy. um yeah. I mean, I was taught, I think a lot of us guys were taught that, and we think of our mother being innocent, and that most women are going to be like that. I mean, I was 19 when I was shown a whole nother reality from a woman that uh be a beast. I didn't even know that was allowed during sex. I didn't know women would want that kind of like being a beast. I didn't know that. But when you see them accept it, hmm, this is acceptable. How far can I push this woman? So you know, I'm not a bad boy. I wouldn't say that, but I've done some things in life. And the other thing is a criminal is harder to control, right? So a woman knows she can't control him. He doesn't care about laws and boundaries. And that's what the bruteness, right? So the man you can't control. Yeah, the BDSM myth twist, right? So they can be helpless. They there's this safety and comfort that women look for in men, and trust. BDSM actually allows for that. Hey man, the even if a woman's in church, the preacher's wife, the preacher's daughter, you hear the stories, man. They uh they want this experience. This I would say this has nothing to do with socioeconomic class. Women have a certain biology, and men need to honor that and handle it. Handle it like an animal would. We're animals first. So we can have all the black tie affairs and mansions and Rolls Royces. We're still animals. And perhaps that is what women are asking men to acknowledge, the animalistic side of her. And it's not made of sugar and spice. It's made of a mouth that can be fucked. And snot runs out of her nose and her eyes are tearing. And she'll say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." Oh, but she has it back in her mouth again. Now, there may be some women who just don't like it, but there are lots of women, even if they don't like it, they'll at least try it. I've seen women who don't like rough sex, but you know what? They're like, "Hey, today I want to try it rough." And no matter how rough I got, she asked for more until she curled up in a fetal position. I wasn't even done with her. And she just curled up in a bed in a fetal position. But she wanted that. She asked me to do it. And I said, "I bet you won't ask for that again." And she said, "Why not?" Sometimes a woman just needs that. But as she wasn't looking for that every day. It's like, why do you buy a Bugatti, right? So that when you step on the gas, that sucker has power and takes off. And maybe that's what women are looking for from a criminal, that he's got that kind of sexual animalism on demand. And if she wants him to be gentle, she's hoping that she can get that also. And myth twist, I hear what you're saying about takes more masculinity. Perhaps, yeah, yeah. That actually does make a lot of sense. It takes like this impervious mindset. No matter what she does or says, there's nothing you can do to move me. And she then starts to complain and says, "Why do we always have to do things your way?" And one, you don't even have to justify and you don't even have to dignify that question with an answer. And if you do, you can tell her, "You and I both know that today you want this and tomorrow you don't want it anymore. And that's unstable. And I am not going to let you lead me down that path of instability. It ain't happening." And if you want someone who wants to be led by your unstable mindset, then you need to find that kind of guy. Like, all of these things may sound harsh, but it's what you're pointing at. Myth twist is that it's like you have to be even more masculine than they had to be 50 years ago or more. Women love Tarzan. They love the caveman. Even when I say me man, you woman, that what do women think of? Tarzan, caveman. They giggle, they laugh. Even if I don't know the woman, I could be in a supermarket paying for my stuff at the cash register, and I just say to the woman, "Me man, you woman," and she giggles. "Well, why are you giggling?" "Oh, it reminds me of Tarzan." They like that. And if a woman wants to come on here and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, I'd love to hear why you say that. Yeah, the first woman. Yeah. And a snake, the phallic symbol, right? The phallic symbol is what convinced her to do something she was told not to do. So what does that say about women and a snake that we all possess? Yeah, I can see that. Feel more alive. So, well, when I was 19, I met a woman who was 32, and she was a dominatrix. I had no idea what a dominatrix was. I didn't know how to spell it. I never even heard the word before. And when she was describing what she made jokes with me, she said, "Yeah, I'll tie you up." And it's like, yeah, you hand I was violent. And it's not because I was 19. But she said she would handcuff me, and I said I would rip my hands off to get out the handcuffs to get to you. So don't you ever do that to me. And I wasn't saying it like a joke. I said it like I really meant it. And there would be consequences if you ever do that to me. And then when I finally, it took me a little while, a couple of months maybe, that I saw that she wasn't joking when she kept hinting about having a black bag and wanted to bring it to my place and play these S&M, BDSM games. And when I understood what she was about, I said, okay, if that's what you're into, that means you've dominated men for a long time in your life. And you're accustomed to men allowing that. So that means any woman who's dominated men throughout her life, she has a fantasy that those men can't give her. And that one fantasy is to be with a man that she can never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, dominate. And I told her, I will make that fantasy come true. You will never dominate me. And I'm 20 years old having sex with this woman who's 33, and she had her hair down, it was down to her ass. I knew nothing about slapping women on the ass and pulling hair. I didn't do that. But because I wanted to show her that total brute force and dominance that I had over her, I actually did that stuff. I had never done it. I never even thought to do that to a woman before. But I did it, and she never once complained. She actually accepted it and enjoyed it. And I was surprised. It was a lesson for me to see that as a man, you can actually get away and do these things and not have one simple complaint. Now, I didn't treat her that way out of bed, but in bed, and she is perhaps one of the most bullheaded women I've ever met in my life. And I can see how she was a dominatrix and how that worked for her. She knew how to play that role. But I think women who are accustomed to controlling and dominating men, that is their fantasy, to be with a man who says, me man, you woman, there's nothing you can do about that. Nothing. I'll throw your ass over my shoulder and carry you away and throw you on my bed. That's a man they cannot control. And so that woman I dated who was a dominatrix, that age gap was a bit much for me for perpetually, and hell, but she would have married me in a heartbeat. Those are her words. Yeah, I'm not a proponent of raping women, but I get what you're saying. Perhaps it's the forcefulness. Like I said, there was a woman I was with who generally like sex to be gentle, but every once in a while she asked for it rough, and I was surprised. There you go, myth twist. Tarzan and Jane. No matter how polished Jane was, and even though Jane brought Tarzan to the city, I bet you she never wanted him to ever stop being Tarzan from the jungle. To no woman will submit to a man that action. What do you mean won't? Oh, loves her, loves her. Okay, that's an interesting comment, West Coast, right? So, if you fell for this woman and you love her, right? Does that mean she tamed you, right? So, if a woman likes you, will she spend her lifetime attempting to tame you and not be able to? Like, well, I would say a woman is less likely to walk away from a guy she can't tame than to walk away a guy she can tame. And she may be less likely to cheat because she's putting all her emphasis and effort into. I've dated women younger than me, and I've asked these women, look, do you think you're going to saddle me up and ride me off into the sunset and say you're the one who broke me in and tamed me? Is that what you really think is going to happen here? I ask women these things. So if you're a guy who hasn't been tamed, so this is another aspect of let's say taking the criminal, right? He's an untamed man. And if this woman can be the one who tamed him, she looks like a hero to her friends. Women are competing with one another. Right. Myth twist. Right. You don't bend the knee, like ever, ever, never, never. And there are always consequences if she operates beyond the boundaries you put in place. Hey, country boy, it's. I think she just wants to all those crazy guys you mentioned. She just wants to feel that manliness penetrate her, even penetrate her mind. Yeah, I bet you women like Darth Vader. Interesting myth twist. Yeah, you guys, Doctor Doom and Thanos, right? Absolute domination. Woman stands no chance against that. She's helpless. She's gonna eat her face. A Sudata. What? So you know what, Sudata? So just because she wants you to make love doesn't mean you do it. It's a reward. So I've been very rough with women out the gate, and then when I decided I would be gentle with them and affectionate, I did that. It was all done on my terms. And but you know, but there are times. Listen, I'll be honest. So I do like to please a woman. I do like to. I like to feel the woman's body under me being pleased. I do like that. So yes, there are times where it's on my terms, and then there are times where I I want to be a good lover, and I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. But she has to understand that I've never been tamed, and she's not leading me under any circumstances. And if you fucked her to exhaustion, you might have to resuscitate her. A lot of women will keep having sex with you, even though they're exhausted. They will. Some might complain. I mean, there are women who complained and said, you're gonna fuck up my pussy, and you're not gonna marry me, and I'm gonna be no good for the guy who wants to marry me. I've heard those. But you know what she did? She kept coming back, even though she was saying those things. Even had the born again, like the diehard born again Christian, no sex, and even those women keep coming back. Hey, country boy, I was just mentioning. Yes, you can say that these women who have been ran through, but this born again Christian, she was 25. She had sex with one guy on 2 different occasions with one guy. So I was the second guy ever, and she wasn't lying. She's a nun now, so she went through with her born again Christian. But what I thought was she literally used me to have sex before she became a nun. She just wanted this sexual experience, and then she went off to be a nun. So even women who want to be a nun still have this desire for sex. I'm saying that there are very few women who are immune to this animalistic mindset. And the ones who don't have that most likely have been either raped and they're terrified of sex, or there's a rare condition I read about once of women who, when they have sex, is so painful they can't have it, even if they want to, even if they're sexually aroused and wet. Sex is much too painful for them. But I would say for the rest of the women, and maybe there's some other circumstances, but most women at some point want to experience, even if it's a slow grind, there's this, like, you can still exert manhood if it's what women would call a gentle lovemaking. Even if you're gentle, you still can exert masculinity and power, even in the face of being gentle. So yeah, it's rare to find both in one man. So I think the reason it's rare, Myth Twist, to find both is because men have been told to not do that, right? So, you guys see my last name is Santos, and I've probably gotten a pass from a lot of women because they say, oh, you're Santos, so you're machismo, this whole Latino thing, so they leave me alone. So if I'm at a social gathering and all the other guys are being treated as, and they're saying, well, you Santos, you're just this machismo Latino, and we understand, but the rest of you guys, you better get in line. And they did. So I would get a pass. And the problem there, and so here's the problem. Women told men to get in line and find your feminine side. And then they resented that because that's not what they wanted. They still wanted that power and the essence of manhood, like their mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers got from men. But the feminists told them that's bad and being feminine is bad. So we've got a generation or 2 or 3 of women who screwed up. It is not what they wanted. There are so many women who divorced this nice guy who was in touch with his feelings and then married a caveman after that, or cohabitated with him, didn't even require marriage. So I'm saying that men have been told that they can't be both, and it's rare when you technically you can be, because every man has that dangerous thing in him. We all have it, and it's way more dangerous than what a woman is bringing to the table. Hey, thanks a lot, West Coast, for that contribution. You can't dominate a broad that you love, and a woman won't submit to a man that actually loved them, Teddy. Loving a broad will dry her snatch up. And so, you listen, you get no debate with me on that one, because it's like I was saying, a woman will stay with you for the rest of her life trying to tame you. And if she can't, she put in the effort. She'll do all the things necessary. She'll cook, she'll clean, she'll be sexy, she'll do all the things necessary to try and tame you. But once she believes she's tamed you, maybe she stays married to you, and maybe she cheats with a guy who's a criminal, or some dude who is untamable. And you know, there probably are some women who there are some women who defy this, what you said, but that's probably the minority of women. And today's time is probably even less than ever. But what I and Myth Twist, what he said, that this has just been the dilemma, and perhaps men understood this before. See, we stopped teaching men that you had to be both, right? So you're the caring father. You make sure everyone in your house, your wife and your children, are safe and secure mentally and physically. But you lay it down with your wife like you're drilling for oil, like a pipeline, man. Like, and maybe the Greeks wouldn't have said that, or whoever else, the Egyptians, even the Chinese. It was understood that if you want your woman to purr, you need to be a brute. You need to fuck with brute force, even if it's being gentle. Even being gentle. There's still this essence of manhood that two women cannot do for one another, even when they use the strap on. Myth twist. So if you can be affectionate but also break her back, you'll be like a drug. That might be a good way to put it. That's well said. You experienced the nun. Oh man. I got her just before she went down that path. I caught her. I was her last stop on the way to nunhood. So you fucked a nun. Oh man. Oh man. So was that a one-time deal, or was that ongoing? Because the woman I had, this was ongoing. It went on for several months. So we'd have sex over the weekend, and Monday morning I'd have sex with her if she was at my place or at hers, and then she'd start to feel guilty. Tuesday she'd be angry. Wednesday she's angry. Thursday she calmed down, and Friday we have sex. Saturday sex, Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday she'd be angry. Like that was a pattern all week. The sex was good. Her body was like slamming. Um, and you know, she was a woman who was not experienced. Like she had sex with one guy and had sex 2 occasions, and she was still a good lover. All these women who think that they have to sleep around with a bunch of dudes is a lie. And to Reggie, to your point, she was trying to. She was. She said to me, she was attempting to use sex to convert me into a born again Christian. And she said at some point she saw it wasn't going to work. Yeah, some of it damn near satanic. Someone was saying that a lot of women do look to the dark side for sex. There's something beastly, savage, no boundaries, uncontrollable. These are things that women may be looking for. And yeah, myth twist. Yes, but in the I think maybe more now, especially since women started saying they wanted thug love, that the mandingo. But if you go back to the 80s, that wasn't the case. They were shutting down brothers like, hey man, you know, you need to find your feminine side. They were shutting them down. Werewolves, huh? What do you mean, Reg? I I did acknowledge it. I'm not sure. 59. Okay. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, our environment has become so safe, and you know, in one of my shows, I told you I read an article and it was saying that the women who actually pushed this whole feminist stuff were women who were wives of wealthy men and often may have had wealthy fathers, came from wealthy families. Those women had nothing else to do. They were bored. They had the comforts of life. Uh, they had no worries. They live in a safe world. And so they pushed this whole feminism and I want to work in a workplace because they were just bored. And this is a problem. We've created such a safe and efficient environment for women that they are literally bored. So they're just like, they can't figure out what to do with themselves. And when you combine that where women's brains are much more unstable than men's, they're not functioning very well. So they're creating havoc. This is why I go back to men need to be containers. We have to start thinking about the long term. When you start changing something in your environment, what are the long term consequences? So, you know, we could now say that we live in a world that's so safe, except if you get, as you said, soy boys, you become a country that's a takeover target for another country that didn't lose manhood. And then life will be dangerous again for women. Because when you become a takeover, the people who take over are going to take what they want. And here in the United States, we've got drug lords in Mexico like El Chapo, um, who could very easily come up here and take what they want. And if we're a society of soy boys, we're not going to be as effective. And I've already talked about China, so okay. Should write a book, Sex with a Nun. Nuns do it best. There's none better than a nun. She gets to release the Kraken. It's pent up for years. I don't blame you. And you know, I see nuns in the stores, and when they're attractive, I'm like you. I'm looking. I'm like, yeah, but I had a girl who wanted to be a nun and became one. I wonder what you have to do to get them to, you know, pull those panties down, or at least pull them to the side. I've seen some attractive ones. I just wonder what does it take to get them to come over to this side? So that's really well put. Manufactured difficulty, right? So they don't have any problems. They just manufactured problems. Well, so hey, now let me tell you, myth twist. I lived in Belize with Mayan Indians. No electricity, no running water. I lived in a jungle with 329 people. And this whole occult, they call, in Spanish, it would be a bruja, which is a witch, brujo, or male witch. In the Caribbean, at least in Belize, is a Caribbean country, they call them obia men, obia woman. And that means you worked with witchcraft. You worked with those, you worked with this whole black magic, and you do things to hurt people. So these are women who are washing clothes in a river. Like, they didn't have washers and dryers. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have stoves with gas. They actually had to use wood that men chopped up to make a fire with the wood, and then put this metal over it, and they cooked on that. They had no ovens. But yet this whole dark side that you're talking about still existed there. It still existed. I'm actually not in a position to say it was more men or more women. It may have been sort of equal in those societies. Hey, Reg, West Coast. I'm confused about your comment. I'm confused. Maybe you stepped out, because I talked about if you love her, she'll feel like she tamed you. She can control you. She tamed you. And if you don't give her that love that you're saying there, she'll feel like she has to constantly try to tame. She'll spend the rest of her life trying to tame you. And when she does, I said either she'll walk, she'll divorce you, or she'll cheat with someone, with a guy she cannot tame. Some women do want those ruthless, aggressive men. I was once talking to this woman who came from money, like money, and she said, "Ted, the reason I like you is because you have asshole. She said you have asshole in you. She said you have enough, not too much that is overwhelming, but you have just enough." And then she said, "And the reason why a man like you would have to be an asshole with me is because," she said, "I'm an asshole too. And the only kind of man that's going to be able to deal with me is a man who has who's an asshole. She said there is such a thing as too much of being an asshole. And she said you have just enough of an asshole that I know it's appropriate to keep me in check. So there are lots of women who are what you would call an asshole, and that's what they want from a man. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Myth Twist. An affectionate asshole, right? And that ties into what Reggie is saying, right? So you never lose your assholiness. You wear it with pride. I'm an asshole and I'm proud of it. And she'll try to tame you for the rest of her life. So right, and so West Coast, if women are unstable like nitroglycerin, then think about what they're looking for from a man as a man who can actually contain them and not be blown up by them. That's a hell of a guy. And perhaps that's more, the expectation is probably more than what it was 70 years ago because they were still comfortable being feminine. They were told to not be feminine. It's kind of like you have to meet a woman with extreme masculinity, like total pride in being an asshole, and let her walk if she wants. If she doesn't like it, then fuck off. It's and when you have forest fires, they I hear they use dynamite to put out certain sections of forest fires. So basically, you're using firepower to put out fire. It's kind of like what you have to be as a man, is to be an explosive stick of dynamite that can put out a fire, an infernoing fire. But there's, as to Myth Twist, there's the affectionate asshole to that. And we're not teaching boys and men how to be that. So we just tell them masculinity is toxic, so you don't want to be that. When really, too many women want the affectionate asshole. It's just up to the man to be comfortable with that and understanding how far to push a woman and not be afraid of that. There's some level of recklessness that a man needs to have. It's fearlessness, recklessness. It's like a controlled recklessness. So if you look at some of the top guys who race in the Indianapolis 500, those guys who are in the front, there's a level of recklessness they have to drive in that car, which you better believe it's controlled. Those guys know how to manage and navigate that car at exceptionally high speeds. And they're just pushing that car to its limit. Even on motorcycles, one of the best motorcycle races I saw, it was, I don't even know how many people were in the race. I saw maybe the middle of the race. It was only 3 guys, like right on each other's ass. And at some point, 2 broke away from 1. And they were pushing those bikes like 2 more miles an hour and they might have spilled out. But there's this recklessness that men need men need to be given permission to be that again. There's a level of performance that comes with that controlled recklessness. And every man is doing every woman a favor by not unleashing his uncontrolled recklessness, which would look like rape and abuse and kidnapping, and it would be just completely out of control. So we have that capacity, but men have been taught to be ashamed of that side of themselves when technically there's no need, because that's part of who we are. Well, so part of the problem with Twist is if you have so many mothers raising boys, how is he going to learn that? Like Reggie keeps saying, like women are emotionally unstable. He's going to be learning about emotional instability. He won't see that controlled recklessness from his father, that it's okay. But I think that's a good way to put it, that men have that kind of power of controlled recklessness. And society has taken away permission for men to be that way by calling it toxic and saying you need to get in touch with your feelings, and you need to be more feminine, like all these things that we've told men that they should be, that doesn't serve the men, and ultimately it doesn't serve the woman either, because if we look at, if women are going to criminals because they want some guy's going to push them to the edge and show them true masculinity, women don't want this feminized man either. In fact, they're probably resentful and they act up because of that. Yep. So being monogamous, yep, with her husband only. So maybe, so we started at so this topic was, do women give criminal privileges to certain men? And so maybe what we are exploring is that there are certain criminal privileges that could be given to any man, provided he's not afraid to be that man. And if we summed it up in two words, it would be controlled recklessness. Um, yes, country boy, but I wouldn't say only dysfunctional, attractive, sexually appealing men, because there are men who do understand this controlled recklessness, and it's a competitive advantage. So why would you tell other men your competitive edge? You just keep it quiet. But there are guys who who are not in prison. They have solid jobs, whether it's blue collar or white collar, and they understand this, and they express this with their women, and they do get this loyalty from their women. They do get women who really love them. They do get women who will jump through hoops for them. So that's why we're kind of peeling this down and seeing that whatever criminal privileges women are given to certain men, I'm asserting that the average guy can actually have access to those privileges. It's just a very different mindset. You men would have to completely walk away from feminism and it's the feminist ideals of you should get in touch with your feminine side. Tell a woman, if you want a feminine side, that's your job. Don't ever look to me for a feminine side. I am not feminine. I'm masculine, and stay out of my territory. If you want to act like a man, as attractive as you are as a woman, if you want to act like a man, I will treat you like a man. I promise you, you will not like it. So if men abandon this notion of taking instructions on what it means to be masculine and be a man, and allowing yourselves to be condemned for masculinity, if you allow those things, then the criminals will be the only ones with this privilege. But if you take back your masculinity, these privileges can be given to men, to the average guy who's willing to understand this controlled recklessness. That may be like a complete mind shift. Some guys may have to train out of that, out of unlearn some of the stuff you've learned before. And some guys may be clumsy with it. It might look like it doesn't work because you've never done that before. No one's talked to you about it. But it surely can be done. So men have always had a hierarchy. And that's one of the things feminism wants to get rid of. Because if men function within their hierarchy, women cannot fit into that. They don't want to fit into that hierarchy because they won't be able to perform. Now, there'll be outlier women who historically you can look and see that there are women who broke through because they were extraordinary in some way. But even within that hierarchy, there's a woman for that guy, right? So, if he's a nerd, there's a woman who's a nerd for him. And I understand a lot of women who are, nerdy, geeky, they still may want the bad boy. And perhaps part of the problem is too many guys who are out of the nerdy girls league have laid her down and gave her a false sense of security. So but so China's doing something, and they're saying that boys are not learning to be masculine. China is actually going to take this on, Myth Twist, which is to give boys and men of the future access to their masculinity. So it's to make that part of the culture. I mean, if we go back 100 years, even if a guy was wimpy, there was still, you still may have had to split logs to cut fire. There were still some masculine things that you did. I had the fortune of having a father that had my brother and I out splitting logs and doing all kinds of masculine stuff, not just going fishing. So, hey, Scope Bay, man, thank you for that. Uncle Ted, salute to the channel. Thank you for your support. Yeah, thank you for all the super chats. Yeah. A nerdy bad boy, right? So I don't think they put this show on TV anymore. There was a show called Beauty and the Geek. It was a reality TV show where they brought, I don't know, 10 nerds and 10 girls who were supposedly considered hot or attractive. And they had to interact, and they would, couple up, and they competed. I remember one of the things is the women they went into a bar, and the women had to convince a man to buy them a drink. So instead of them just standing there and waiting for a guy to buy them a drink, they actually had to walk up to men and ask for a drink. So a couple of things happened. That one exercise taught those women that it was more difficult to walk up to someone than they realized. So they said they had a new respect for men who do that. Second thing that happened is, even though these guys were considered geeks, the more time these attractive women spent with the geeks, the more of a bond that was being formed. And what was amazing is they would actually have their own inside jokes. So I'm saying that to say, and I don't remember how long they would be together, 30 days, I don't remember. I'm saying that to say that a woman could still bond with a nerd because she's still going to end up being with a man. She's still the human being she's going to get to know. And one of the shows, there was a guy on there. I don't know how he slipped through the cracks, what he was considered a geek, he was laying down all the women, all of them. Like at nighttime, they'd show him sneaking out of his room, going to another, and the cameras were, they were filming. And he covered the blankets. He laid down all the women. So he was kind of myth twist. He was your nerdy bad boy. it was amusing to watch him. So I'm saying that even the nerdy guy can still get with a woman. He probably won't get with the high school cheerleader or the hot girl who runs track. But I saw a lot of these myths of the geeky guy and a good-looking girl. Those boundaries were being melted because they were interacting with one another. The glitch in the matrix. For sure he was. He violated he violated. Hey man, China, Alpha Asians, right? So China thinks in terms of 100-year plans, man. So you better believe China is thinking about global domination. I mean, you should see the laws that they had passed here in the U.S. for hate crimes against Asians, and I think the Chinese push that. That's a sign of economic power because that's how things work in the U.S. You pay lobbyists to write your policies. You make campaign contributions to the politicians. You get your laws passed to protect your community. And the Chinese, the Asians are doing that in the U.S. And they are showing their economic prowess and their ability to move things to their liking. So it's a sign that China is no slouch. They're not just sitting on their asses asking for handouts and rioting and burning things down. So they're making big moves. And you better believe it's not going to end there. So, China's got some 100-year plan that probably has a lot to do with them being a dominant global force in many different ways. Hell, I went to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. I went to a breakfast and the deputy director of that said, if the United States wanted to have a war with China, we'd have to borrow money. And the crazy thing is we'd have to borrow the money from China to have a war with China. So I'm sure China's aware of that. That gives you a lot of power. And they haven't even begun to exercise the kind of power they have on a global scale. But they're using they're not playing chess, but they're using a very masculine strategy and using money to take over the world. They'll loan anyone money. And if you can't pay it back, that's okay. We own part of your country. So I think here in the U.S., in the West, men need to think twice before they become soy boys and allow themselves to be a target of a hostile country takeover. So, perhaps this all really revolves around men getting comfortable with controlled recklessness. Never being afraid to express your masculinity. Never allowing a woman to dictate and define the terms of your masculinity. No, it's so the only way myth twist, do you think it's reversible? I think it's a wrap personally. Well, I guess we could all lay down and wait for China to come in, right, from the from the east, and here in the United States we'll have El Chapo and the drug lords coming up from the south. So easy takeover, right? Complete control and domination. The Mexico, I'm telling you, Mexico still wants the parts of the country that used to be Mexico. I lived in Mexico for about 2 years, and they are still upset about that. So they still want their country back. They still see that as Mexico. So can it be reversed? Here's what, if you can understand, and I'm going to oversimplify it, but culture of a company, of a family, of a country, according to social anthropologists, is a network of conversations. So you create conversations that create the culture, and people's actions will reflect those conversations. That becomes your culture. So it's not like culture is this thing. It's literally words coming out of your mouth. Someone created these words in their head and put them out of their mouth. So all we had was some bored women who were married to affluent men who created new conversations. Perhaps there's some unintended consequences they didn't see coming. And maybe these are intended, because in 1837, some dude named in France, Charles, I forget how to say his last name, he coined the term feminism. And there was always this thing, and I don't mean this as a conspiracy theory, there was always this plan of being able to have control over people in society. And one way to do that is you remove the father from the home, and it's much easier to convince and control women. And then you get the women who will turn your children into soy boys and girls. So I don't understand the end game for that, but that's what feminism is really designed to do. So all people did was create these conversations, and you repeat it just like advertising over and over and over. A lie can become the truth, even though it's still a lie. But people believe the lie to be true because they've heard it so many times that they actually, not only do they believe it, they promote it. So if you want to reverse this, men would have to take such a powerful masculine stand and create an entirely new set of conversations, and have that masculinity be a wall that all the feminists, if you don't like it, you know what? Pack the fuck up and leave and go start your own island. Pack up. In Mexico, feminists are disappearing. And men who defend feminists, they are also disappearing. The Middle East, you come there with feminism, you're going to disappear. Even the women defend their men and don't want to go against their men. See, if we look at feminism was always designed to take the man out the house, then that means it's like separating the herd, right? So if you can get the women to be there by themselves without their man for protection, you can do whatever you want to them. And so women don't see like they're being presented with a Venetian flytrap, and they're getting inside, they're going to be trapped, and they're going to be in trouble. And then they'll be saying, well, protect me, though. That's when they're screaming at the men, you didn't protect us. No, you went along with it. So men are going to have to create an entirely new conversation, because that's all that happened, is someone created a conversation and people went with it. You can do this in a corporation. Hey, we have a new policy that says this. That old policy that said XYZ is now out the window. There's a new policy, and this is the way I used to run a company. It was a transportation company. And before I ran it, if we screwed up something with a client, we would call the client and lie and say, oh, someone got a flat tire and this happened, that. I said, we have a new policy. The new policy is we don't lie. We tell the client the truth. And whoever made the mistake in the office, you are responsible for calling the client, and you are going to tell them exactly what happened, your contribution to that problem, and what you're going to do to resolve it. And you know what happened from that one new conversation? People stopped making mistakes. They stopped being sloppy. They stopped being lazy. And when I said that in a meeting, one of the women laughed at me and said, yeah, and then you woke up. If we start telling the clients the truth when we make mistakes, we're going to lose all of our clients. So, you're just dreaming. I said, no, this is the policy. So they role played with me. Well, what if the client says this, Papa? And we role play. And that became the new policy. And our mistakes just dropped. They dropped. and that changed the culture. And the culture changed so much that when we had to hire new people had to fit in this new high performing culture that did not accept mistakes. So if you can change the culture in a company by creating new conversations, I'm telling you, you can do it in a country. But men have to stand by it. The same thing when you're in a relationship. If you tell a woman, here are the boundaries, if you violate that, these are the consequences. And I am not kidding with you. And you have to execute. You cannot back down. Look, this is an extreme one. If a woman hits you and she hits you again, and you say, look, you hit me again, I'm going to hit you back. You have to hit her. Doesn't mean you have to beat the hell out of her, but you have to show her that there are consequences. And when I tell you I'm going to do something, these are consequences. But it has to sting enough so that she will think twice about it and never do it again. Well, listen, I get that the Most High, but right now, we live in a society where men are given all the tools they need to bring order out of chaos. And if we sit around and wait for some divine intervention, slavery will start all over again. Slavery is not something that just happens overnight. Slavery is something that you evolve into, and it is happening. Yeah, I mean that's we can keep hoping that the grids go out and all that, but what I'm saying is the way we got here is new conversations were created and men followed them. You were told to find your feminine side. You were told to stop being machismo and masculine. You were told to stop that. You were told to be more feminine and let women control you. You were told to do this. And men followed it. And so what's the result? Now women are given privileges to criminals because they never wanted that in the first place. They didn't even understand. Women who went along with that never understood what they were signing up for. And many women have seen that it's not what they want from a man. They still want, as Myth Twist, they want the affectionate asshole. They want the guy who breaks their back and cares for them at the same time. But men were told to stop doing that. And men are even now afraid of their daughters. So now you teach your daughter to be a feminist, and now women are having this uncontrolled recklessness. They're getting pregnant by guys who would never be a father. They're getting STDs like insane, right? They're getting debt. Even though they get jobs, they're spending money like crazy. They've got these student loans. They're traumatizing. They're verbally and physically abusing their children because they're not dealing with it. They're becoming heroin addicts, even though they have high-paying jobs. This is uncontrolled recklessness. And then they tell men to fix it. So what do you do when your 5-year-old is out of control? You correct them and you guide them and you create conversations for them to follow. And I understand this may sound like I'm oversimplifying it, but it means that men are going to have to ultimately be responsible when things get out of control. Men build every civilization. And when you build something, you're ultimately responsible for it. You can't build it and just walk away and expect it's going to function on its own. It will be chaotic. Hey man, yeah, that's a crazy statistic. The fastest growing of a segment of the population of heroin addicts in the U.S. is women who earn high incomes. That just, high income for, there aren't women out there who are like Steve Jobs and Henry Ford, meaning they don't have college degrees. Women who earn high incomes have college degrees. They're well educated. How do you become a woman with lots of money and a great education and a heroin addict? It doesn't even make sense. But they're taking on certain jobs that biochemically they're not doing the best at. And like I said, during World War II, when mostly women were in the factories and women had to double up on the hours they worked, injuries went up 150%. And the men in the same exact situation during the same time had zero increase in injuries. There's some limit. There's some biochemical difference. And we can talk equality all we want, but it's just not there. What's going on, cousin? I see you in the house and Instagram. How are you? Heck yeah. Heck yeah, what? For men to be men again? Oh, interesting. Quarter. Yeah, I read Quarter sometimes. The affectionate asshole, and she can't stop loving him. Yeah, it means you're an asshole. You have boundaries. You're no nonsense. You care, but there are things you don't care about, and you're not going to get into. There are boundaries. Like, we're not going to argue about that. We're going to do I'm going to make tough calls. There are decisions that need to be made. Sometimes they're uncomfortable, but they have to be made. And we can't just sit there and let these things sit and just go on and become bigger problems. I mean, I said to you guys earlier, one of the outcomes is we've got children between 11 and 17 significantly increasing suicides. We can't keep having that. That doesn't work. And people say, well, we have to do things to save the children. But no one's talking about the significant increase in suicide of children between 11 and 17. Yeah, cousin, I know you like masculine men. I understand that. And you're also that side of independent woman and have your home and all that. I got that. So we're promoting the affectionate asshole. He cares enough, but he's a firm, no nonsense, caring man who creates boundaries. And everyone's safe. I'm the oldest of four, and when my parents would leave me in charge, I didn't want my siblings. I have one brother and two sisters. I didn't want them to get hurt, so I had these hard, fast rules. When my parents left, we all go into the den. We're gonna watch TV. No one runs around. Otherwise, there are consequences, and I will execute on those consequences. And that's including for my brother. So no one's going to get hurt. I even said, if you want to go to the bathroom, you raise your hand. I don't even want you talking. Silence. We're going to watch TV. When it's time when it's bedtime, you know your bedtime. I'm not even going to have to tell you, to go to bed. And that's it. I was, you could say I had draconian laws, but no one got hurt. And years later, fast forward, my sisters, both of them on separate occasions, told me when I was in charge, they felt so safe. They knew they would never get hurt. I mean, my brother and I were rough. Our father loved wrestling with us, and my brother and I played with our cousins. We played till people got hurt. So when my brother played with my sisters, he also played kind of rough with them, and he's a big dude. And my sisters sometimes got hurt, and it wasn't intentional. He got hurt. So when I was in charge, I had these draconian laws. Everyone was safe. I made decisions that were in the best of everyone. Yes, yes. Yeah, guys need to really understand the value of sex in a relationship. Women are running to bad boys for sex if that's the only reason. We really have to understand the value of laying down that pipe like a boss. You can train your body. There are foods you can eat, exercises. If you only do one thing, do your abs, have a strong core. Laying pipe is important to women more than I think we've been taught. We have this women don't care about sex and it's more important for men. But we had this talk earlier about this animalistic side, and men cannot ignore that with women. Otherwise, she'll be laying down with some guy while you're married to her. And as Myth Twist said, you've got a woman on a completely different continent. So women respect manhood. They really do. Even if they don't like everything that you say and you explain, look, this is for the best. And sometimes you may have to explain it. And sometimes they won't understand it that day. They may understand it tomorrow. Sometimes it may take 2 weeks. I mean, I lived with a woman, and sometimes she didn't get it that day. And 2 weeks later or the next day, she would say, oh, why didn't you say that the first time? That makes sense. I got it. So I guess you need to be okay with that also as men. Tough decisions have to be made. And some women will get that immediately. They'll understand it. Sometimes they don't like it. But as men, we make decisions that are in the best interest of all. And so, the question, can this be reversed? Yes. Men are going to have to create completely new conversations and stand by those. And you're going to raise your sons and you're going to raise your daughters to understand those conversations and to honor them. If you sit on a sideline, then you're going to let uncontrolled recklessness run the show. And they're going to be running the show and producing results that not even they want. Men built civilization. We are ultimately responsible for it. So, starting to feel a little bit redundant, but you guys get the point. So, do women give criminal privileges to certain men? Yes. And do they give those same privileges to certain men who are not criminals? Yes. So what do you learn from guys who are criminal minded, who are not afraid to push boundaries sexually, who are not afraid to create boundaries, who are not afraid to be the affectionate asshole, to be controlled recklessness? Love to see your content, Myth Twist. But yeah, what's the question? um, no, if men lay pipe in a responsible way, no, it's not what got us here. It's I'm asserting what got us into this situation is that women went to the wrong guys for pipe because that was important to them, and men are ignoring that. Women are going to want pipe laid. They're just going to want that. So if they can't get it from the right guy, they're going to go get it from the wrong guy. What's your question? Or you want to have an offline conversation, Myth Twist? We can discuss it offline. I don't know if we're connected on Instagram. If not, connect with me on Instagram and, DM me. We can do a Zoom call. Okay. What's the question? I'm country boy. I'm saying men cannot lose sight that women value sex more than what we're being told. They just do. And if they can't get that from the guy they want, they'll get a substitute. And that's what we're watching. Well, there's also another part that women became more materialistic. That became. So the more jobs we gave to women, the more dissatisfied it seems they seem to be with money. It's actually something to think about, right? So it can be a conflict, right? So some women can have a problem with it, but if you haven't seen it, I mean, what I did is I wrote a book, right? So I wrote my book that has corporate training. So I integrated conversations I have here with tools that I use in corporations. So it's very much a hybrid. It's actually a book that I want to see sold in corporations. So if you can work out some way to have you be a hybrid, and and I'm not saying that's the best thing. In the U.S., corporations are losing over $300 billion in workplace productivity because of divorce and bad relationships. People become less productive when they're going through divorce. Either they're headed for a divorce, in the middle of one, or just coming out of one. So productivity drops anywhere from 50 to 75%. So I wrote the book as a solution to that. So it's dealing with a lot of things that we're saying here. There's a permission that I can get by writing a book in dealing with some of these sensitive topics, which could give me a bad name, but I have another background that can support that. So I'm looking to solve a bigger problem. Hey, country boy, I'm not debating, getting sex through marriage, but as men, you don't want to lose sight of the fact that women are sexual beings and honor that. Just never lose sight of that. Yes. The answer, Myth Twist, is yes. It could. Some women can have a problem, and I've had conversations with women, and we talk it through. Sometimes women haven't looked at the economics of everything they're saying. So to be able to have a rational conversation, this book, I've gotten feedback from women who have read the book. They say I'm harsh. This is a man's perspective. I've even had guys say this is a man's perspective, right? So it's harsh and it's enlightening, because women have said these are conversations that men are not being honest with them. So I'm being honest, and I'm doing it in a classy way. And in the book is me being interviewed by 5 women. So it's 5 women who have their own, character development, personalities. So it's entertaining and dynamic, but I'm getting at the source of why relationships fail. That's why I called it Why People Can't Find Love. So I'm getting at the source of things, and the tools that are in a book can be transferred to your intimate life, to your business life, and even in your family life. So women who have read it says it's harsh, and they say it's enlightening, but it's confronting, and it has women dealing with things that generally they don't, because men don't say these things enough. I'm self-employed also, so I understand. But even still, you know, I deal with clients. I deal with the corporate America. So there are men and women. There are a lot of women in corporations, in companies. So, and HR is filled with women. So yes, I can have these problems. There are some women who can get upset, but I've actually I had a woman from England do a Zoom call with me. I think it was last week, and she, you know, she had some problems with some things that I said. But you know, we spent a long time talking, and she really, really liked the book. Uh, it was, she just thought I was a little harsh, and it was a big pill to swallow. So while she felt it was harsh, she loved the book. She could talk to me in great detail about what she got out of it. So, and this is a woman who's in corporate. So yeah, so there's a way to be classy about it. I mean, you know, I imagine I could be a lot more crude and raunchy, and I see other guys do that. So there's this, you know, I created this to have a place for men to be able to think and speak like men. And and at the same time, it's the best place in the world for women who actually want to understand how men think. My book reflects that. I'm a stand for men. You know, I'm a stand for taking care of women, but not if women are going to be disrespectful towards men or even towards other women. So you know, I take a stand. What's in the best interest of the whole? And if we look at society now, a lot of things are just not working. Yeah, yep. So look, I like to see the books. See, it's not just about selling the book in corporations. It's about also doing workshops in corporations. So I've been doing that for a long time now. You know, I've been working with CEOs and other executives and people in company. Hell, I've had clients that were all female companies. And the work that I do is very intimate in getting people out of their way of sabotaging relationships. So I've literally had female only companies hire me. I didn't have this book written, but you know, the owners, the presidents of those companies knew who I was and how I think. And, you know, we've had some tough conversations. Okay, cool. So let me know when you have something going, man. So guys, I had no idea I was going to go this long today. And I probably say that every week, but I was looking at the clock, at the timer, at the 45-minute mark, and I thought I was coming to a close, like an hour and 15 minutes. I thought I was going to be done, and it's almost 3 hours right now. So great feedback, excellent questions. The super chats. Thanks all to you guys who support me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for engaging me. Thanks for asking really good questions, tough questions, and you guys can ask me even tougher questions if you want. I welcome those. But today I'm going to put this show, I'm going to come to a close. Yeah. And I thought this would be a good topic because it's popular in the news, and I thought I didn't know we were going to go out as far as we did, but I'm glad we did, because on one hand we can say, oh, this is horrible, they give men the criminal privilege, but on another hand, well, how can this be to an advantage, and how can we use that to positively impact society? And so there are lots of different ways to look at things. So guys, I can't thank you enough for your support. I ask, if you haven't smashed the thumbs up, the like button, smash that. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe and smash the bell so you get notifications. If you haven't checked me out on Instagram, check me out there. Appreciate the support coming from Instagram right now, and also. And once again, the super chats. Thanks a lot for the support. You guys are always great. This is Fridays. I always do YouTube and chill. I like to have intimate conversations, and we talk about sex, and we got into that. So thanks for engaging me. Even the ladies who have been sort of silently watching, thank you for your support and checking us out. My commitment is that everyone walks away from a perspective that makes their life healthier, better, more productive. And until next time, guys, I'll be back Sunday. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Take care. Goodbye, and thank you.